Chapter 5. I'm afraid you're right, Mandy, Dr. Emily sighed as she stroked the excited-looking dog. All right, calm down. That's right. You go and have a drink of water. What do you mean, Mom? You're afraid I'm right, Mandy asked. I think it's fantastic that we know her real name. I know what you mean, Dr. Emily, said James. It's good for Kimball, but not so good for us. We're right back to square one. There's no way we can trace her owner now. Mandy looked crestfallen. She'd been so happy when the golden retriever had reacted to hearing her real name. She hadn't thought about the rest of it. But maybe they weren't back to square one. I'm not so sure, James, she said after a while. We can tell the SPCA and the police that she's named Kimball. If she's been reported missing, her owner would have given the dog's name too. That's a good point, Mandy. I'll call them now. Dr. Emily ruffled Mandy's hair. And it is good that we can call her Kimball by her real name now, James said. That could help her settle down better. Mandy nodded. As soon as Mom's finished on the phone, we'll get the box fixed up for her. The box was just over a square yard. It had a floor, but no top. The section at the front was lower and hinged, so it could be pulled down. Dr. Emily sent Mandy and James through to the clinic to get a pile of newspapers for lining the floor of the box. Because her pups are almost due, we won't give her a blanket or a sheet to lie on, said Dr. Emily. A little while before she goes into labor, she'll probably want to make a nest, and we'll start looking for something to tear up. So if the newspapers are there, ready for her, she won't get anxious wondering what to use. You look busy, came a voice from the doorway. Mandy looked up with a smile. Hi, Dad, she said. Is Yindy okay? She managed to open the closet door this time, Dr. Adam told them. She'd chewed a hole about this size. He made a circle with his thumb and index finger in one of Mrs. Anderson's best Yorkshire wool blankets. I can never be sure if she's eating the wool that upsets her stomach or feeling guilty for what she's done. Mrs. Anderson swears Yindy knows when she's being naughty. Mandy and James laughed. It's possible it's some sort of vitamin or mineral deficiency that makes her feel the need to eat wool, Dr. Adam continued. More than likely it's just a habit, but it's good to check. I've made an appointment for tomorrow. We'll run a couple tests. What's new with Goldie? Anything? Mandy ran over to give him a hug and tell him the news about the dog's name. So it's Kimball, huh? Said Dr. Adam, looking across at the golden retriever. No doubt about that, he added, laughing as Kimball thumped her tail on the floor. Come look at the box. Mandy dragged her father to the table. James did all the assembling, she said. We're going to put it in its place now that we've lined it. The newspaper will be a warm spot for the pups to lie on, won't it? Asked James as he and Dr. Adam lifted the box off the table. And easy to change when it gets soiled. Dr. Adam nodded. Yes, warmth is very important, he said. If we weren't putting the box in such a cozy place, we would have to cover the open top with a square of wood and a thick blanket, or use a heat lamp. We'll still have to keep checking on the temperature, but I'm almost sure it will be okay without any of that. What should the temperature be, Dr. Adam? Asked James. He was always eager to learn. 70 degrees is the ideal, James. It very rarely falls below that in here at this time of year with the stove going. The Hopes didn't use the stove very much during the summer months, as it made the kitchen much too hot. Instead, they used the microwave. Mandy, though, was always pleased when the time came to relight the big friendly stove. She especially loved the coziness of their kitchen in winter. As soon as Dr. Adam and James moved back from the box, Kimball walked over eagerly. Without hesitation, she stepped over the low front part to settle herself on the bed of newspapers. Do you think she might have a bed like this at home? James asked. Yes, I think that could be the case. Dr. Adam stroked his beard thoughtfully. Mandy looked at him. There really is something strange about the whole thing, Dad, she said. Kimball's obviously been very well looked after. She seems to be used to lots of love and attention, and it looks as though she's been used to this kind of box. Which means her owner must have been preparing for the birth, James added. I can't believe such a caring owner would abandon her. But if she was stolen, you'd think we have heard from her owner by now. Mandy nodded. There was that phone call to make sure we found her, she said. That was kind of strange. If it was her owner, it's a shame she didn't tell you what Kimball likes to eat, Dad. I know you said not to worry about her not eating, but maybe she just doesn't like what we're giving her. I stopped at Grandma's on the way home, Dr. Adam told her. She was making stew, so I've brought a few chunks of meat home to chop up. Kimball may well be used to some raw meat in her diet. We'll give it to her in a while, but first let's leave her alone until she's settled in her box. Meanwhile, I'd eat almost anything that was offered. Oh no, gasped James. I hadn't realized it was so late. I have to go, Mandy. Dad and I are going swimming this afternoon. Then we're going to visit my aunt. Will you leave me a message with Mom if there's any news about Kimball? Of course I will, Mandy promised. But you're not staying at your aunt's house, are you, James? She added anxiously. James sometimes spent a couple days with his cousins during school vacations. Not this time, said James. So you'll be able to come tomorrow morning? James grinned. Nothing could keep me away, he said. That's okay then, thought Mandy as she closed the door behind him. There's something important James and I need to talk about. Kimball stayed happily in her box for an hour or so. Then she got out and walked over to Mandy. She laid her head on Mandy's knee and wagged her tail. Are you trying to tell me something? Mandy asked, as she played gently with Kimball's soft golden ears. Are you hungry? Should we try some of the meat that Dad got for you? Mandy mixed the raw meat with a small portion of canned food. She decided not to bother adding anything else. If Kimball ate this meal, she'd try adding dry food to the same mix next time. Kimball ate about half of what Mandy gave her before going to the door and whining to go out. Dr. Emily was in the garden planting some tulip bulbs. She smiled when Mandy told her that Kimball had eaten a little bit, then suggested that Kimball might like a slow, short walk down the back path. Put her leash on, though, Mandy said. Mandy, and if she shows any reluctance to walk, bring her right back. I'll turn back well before we reach the houses anyway, said Mandy. She might get overexcited if we meet any of the other animals. We don't want her getting into a fight with Tom. Walt Picker lived in one of the houses behind the Fox and Goose, and he had 3 cats. The 2 females, Scraps and Missy, were friendly, gentle creatures, but Tom was a big and fierce, and thought nothing of taking on any cat or dog he saw. Yes, it wouldn't be good for Tom to set eyes on her, Dr. Emily agreed. Both Mandy and Kimball enjoyed their short walk. October had been a mild month. The trees were still dressed in their glorious autumn-fall leaves of yellow or orange, russet, copper, and crimson. The little green flowers were still blossoming on ivy hedges, and Mandy saw a blackberry bush still full of juicy berries. Perhaps she'd come and pick some for Grandma after she'd taken Kimball back. Kimball didn't seem in any hurry to turn back. She was ambling happily along, pausing every now and then to sniff and scratch in the hedges' undergrowth, her tail moving slowly from side to side. Watching her, Mandy grew thoughtful again. Who could possibly have left her at the door of Animal Ark, and why? I'll find out, Kimball, she promised aloud. I don't know how yet, but James and I will think of some way to do it.